Hello and welcome to the All About X-Men Comics podcast, where you'll find recaps and reviews of all the most recent X-Men comics, as well as previews for upcoming issues. Please keep in mind this will mean spoilers, and is brought to you in a totally uncensored fashion. I'm host Scorpio Moon, a Wolverine fan who one day learned that there are actually other X-Men, and hosting with me is...
Johnny Alpha, who now more than ever wants to be part of the new Xavier School.
Let's start strong this week with all new X-Men number 18. So after packing exactly one bag of belongings, Kitty gathers her students and they join Warren at Camp Cyclops. And they've been introduced to the idea of living in a renovated mutant's torture chamber, as his new Xavier School is housed inside the old Weapon X facility. You know, the one from back when it was still called Weapon X and not Weapon Plus. Anyway, as much as Kitty loves Wolverine, she's enamored by Scott's cleverness, and from there it's all show them to their rooms, and we get to all the little character interactions that make up this book. Eva walks away from Bobby mid-sentence, and you get one of those gags where he keeps talking, thinking she's still there, and the poor little guy passes out in the middle of talking to himself. And hey, it's the first real moment of peace for him since Battle of the Atom started, right?
Oh yeah, and the whole thing that, well, it looks like a prison cell. Well, because it used to be a prison cell. Yeah, but you could put up a couple posters, and then, yeah, then I'll look like a prisoner with connections. You know, he had some great one-liners in it, man.
Bobby is just too much, man, for real. Celeste of the Cuckoos doesn't like Jean and comes out and says exactly that. There's nothing to figure out. I just don't like some people. You're one of those people. I love it. But she still gets verbally pwned by Jean Grey.
Yeah, and then gets punked by the other two cuckoos. I really like how they're bringing them about to where they're evolving to thinking that they're actually different people from one another. I really enjoyed that. And like the other blonde one is thinking about changing her hair to red since there's already a brunette. So then we can have the best of all three worlds with the cuckoos. We have blondes, brunettes, and redheads.
Yeah,
and
man.
Girl outfits.
Yeah, talk about something to look forward to. And man, there is really just so much to talk about. With all new X-Men 18, there's really not a moment wasted here. All the interactions are so great. You know, Hank tries to shoot the shit a bit with Benjamin, you know, who's watching Dazzler on their mega computer TV. And, you know, Beast just wants to tinker with some tech and stuff until he's approached first by Magneto. I mean, look, you know, they've done this before. It's kind of like, oh shit, weren't you recently just trying to kill us? Now you're in charge of the school. You know, Magneto has that history with the X-Men. We have that history with Magneto and the X-Men. So it's not the first time we've seen something like this. And, you know, they don't try and really milk it too much either. You know, Hank actually kind of insults Eric's computer skills and then realizes who the fuck he's talking to and maybe thinks, oh, yeah, I should be a bit intimidated here.
Yeah, he told him it was cute. You know, you put this together cute. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, man, I got a kick out of that, too. Magneto just kind of glares at him, you know, through his helmet, and he literally just says, I understand the unspoken context of the situation.
Right.
And then just kind of, you know, walks off panel, off screen. And then secondly, Jean strolls in, and they finally address that kiss they shared. Beast is just pissed that she ran off with Cyclops during Battle of the Atom. So they're having this epic argument about everything. Jean almost loses her shit. I think kind of showing flashes of, like, temper tantrum, Xor and Jean style. Until Cyclops interrupts, and who knows how much of all this he heard. And Benjamin is just sitting there watching all this unfold in shock. I mean, like chip literally falling out of his mouth.
Just the little panels of his face watching it. I mean, it was better than any TV show he could have been watching at that time.
Yeah, man, he had his soaps. I don't think he was watching Dazzler anymore.
Where are you going to get that kind of drama besides from the original X-Men? You know what I mean? They created the soap opera on paper, so I mean...
And there's still so much more. I mean, this is really a packed issue. If you've ever complained that the all-new X-Men book feels too short or too slow, well, I think that's fixed at least for this issue. But, yeah, I mean, you know, Kitty and Magic have some time to just chill and talk. You know, it's kind of soft and emotional, you know, mostly about Colossus. Ileana really misses her brother. You know, the emotional moment gets to her. Like, you know, she goes in for a hug and just runs right through a phased Kitty.
Great interaction between two past friends. I don't know, it's really touching. Magic goes to hug Kitty, and Kitty phases, and Magic falls right through it. She's like, I'm sorry, I didn't think you were going to hug me, because you're not like a hugging person, Ileana. I know it was really, really funny little scene between them two, too. I'd have to say my favorite interaction is when Magic actually had to explain to Beast that she was actually just Magic. You know, that was hilarious. Young Henry just couldn't get it through her mind that she actually just does shit with magic. You know what I mean? That really just had me rolling.
Yeah, it's all in the name, bitch.
That, and then there was another classic one between Bobby and Kitty Pryde, because he's got that whole thing where he's kind of really turned off by Kitty because his older self is boning her, and he kind of is scared of her. So it was really hilarious, the whole thing that you're just gonna take everything out on me because I broke up with you. And she's like, I broke up with you, you little shit. And he's, oh yeah, just hilarious.
That's actually a really good point. I kind of forgot how reciprocal it was. Because when I was reading this, I kept thinking, Iceman thinks Kitty is taking out her anger at present Iceman on him. But yeah, I forgot, he's not exactly too keen on the whole idea either. He doesn't want his own sloppy seconds.
Right. And I have to say, man, I kind of like the new outfits, man. They're 90s to the core, but I don't know, they seem to really be working for what they're trying to do with this book. And I'm really happy that they finally took in this team and they've put them at the Xavier School, because if you've read All New X-Men from the beginning, it's always had to do with the Uncanny team and the new X-Men. I mean, the All New X-Men, the X-Men from the past. So the fact that they were at the Jean Grey School kind of really made the book hard to follow sometimes. So now that they're there, I don't know, it's a little more fluid, you know what I mean? It's probably where they should have been from the get-go, but it made more sense for Battle of the Atom for them to be at the Grey School at that time. So I get why they worked it out like that. So I'm really happy that this book's evolved to where it probably always needed to be. Yeah,
plot-wise, it really did kind of have to start that way. There's no other way around it without kind of, I think, just making it too awkward or not really work as well. But yeah, there really is something kind of refreshing about it being here. I love your idea, Cyclops, the leader, he's the only one who's kind of, like awake to make it. Like, we're actually showing Cyclops just, like, being strong and being leadership-y. And yeah, like you said, they get new uniforms. I'll kind of miss the old hip-hugging gym short look on Jean. I guess Scott wants the uniforms to remind them that they're not in Kansas anymore. And they have literally been wearing the same ones for, God only knows how long. And then one of the other really cool scenes, Magic shines her big old soul sword and, morphs them new costumes by Magic, which, like you said, Man of Science Beast has a bit of a problem accepting. But there's not too much time to dwell on that because Kitty has a really great leadership speech to give as well. She does her whole leadership thing. I thought it was a really, really epic speech. And damn, there's still more here. So Kitty is giving this really dramatic motivational speech to her team. It's solid. It's good stuff. But all Jean can hear is the guys thinking about her. So through her telepathy, you're getting all this from her point of view. And obviously, I don't have much experience, like being a girl getting hit on all the time. But the way they prattle on and on in their heads about her, obsessing, comparing, like even I was starting to freak out and feel kind of uncomfortable. So, Jean just starts getting like mega overwhelmed and stressed by it all. And it looks like she's about to have like an angry Phoenix moment. And that, that stress, it triggers that fight or flight feeling that taps you intuitively into your powers. And next thing you know, she's floating out of control, levitating herself in the air. She's all out of sorts, and Warren swoops in for the save. And as they're calming down, Beast's pocket Cerebro goes off because he made an iPod link-themed Magneto Cerebro just for fun.
There's an app for that.
Yeah.
There's an app for that. I do have to admit, dude, Kitty's speech was motivating. I mean, that was better than probably any of the teacher-professor speeches that I've read in X-Men for a long time, or probably ever. So I'm glad that Kitty is just, I like that she's the new Professor X here.
Yeah, she's really earned her stripes, man. And she's really shown there that there's no one else that should be in charge of this team. Isn't there kind of I don't know, what would you call it, a conflict of interest in Cyclops teaching his younger teenage girlfriend?
Yeah, I think that, he's going to, I don't know, it's like the worst, it's like a really bad Sting song. It's going to be like put into an X-Men story, Don't stand so close to me, I don't know if you know the Sting song I was talking about.
Yeah, it's a little sketchy, man. It's a little sketchy, but whew, we're finally through all that recap, man. Let's do our thumbs up and thumbs down and buy it or skip it.
Thumbs up, thumbs way up. This is the X book that really should have just followed Battle of the Atom instead of that shit we had last week. And I'm going to say buy it. I mean, like, if you haven't been reading this title, this is a good jump-on point. It's a good new opening for the series. And if you really enjoy this, you can go back and read the 3 trades of All New X-Men that have come before. And phenomenal reads, but this is actually just a great jump-on point.
Yeah, thumbs up, man. Everything from Iceman waving his hands around pretending he can't find the base, to Eva only half joking about seeing him across an angry crowd of mutants but never being introduced, through the dramatic character interaction, their new uniforms, it all shows how you can embrace the sillier parts of your universe and have fun with it without being overly campy. Hint, hint, Jason Aaron.
No pirate ships. You were waiting for it, weren't you? You were waiting for the pirate ships.
Yep. But I mean, really, getting back to that one scene, I think it's really so much summed up in that one scene where Kitty and Magic are talking. Magic goes in for the hug, but Kitty, was expecting anything else but that, and, poor Magic phases right through her and, gets a face full of snow for her troubles. It's so telling, but, it's just kind of so sad in a way, Like, it's almost like it's kind of a slapstick moment, like, whoop, missed the hug and hit the snow. But, it's so sad that, Kitty would never expect, like, anything emotional from her like that. Like, to do something slapstick and play it for dramatic effect is just, once again, perfectly how you can have your silly X-Men stuff, but have it be serious and meaningful. So this is kind of an awkward compliment, maybe, but, like, as bad as I thought Amazing X-Men was, is how good I thought All New X-Men 18 was. That amount of feeling, but in opposite directions.
It's the other side of the coin. I completely agree.
So yeah, I'm gonna go buy it. And like you said, jumping on point, it really felt like a first issue kind of thing for them. It was also a perfect Battle of the Atom aftermath. Once again, like you suggested, man, this really should have come out last week to keep the momentum from that ball rolling. Okay, on to Marvel Knights X-Men #1. When Rachel is hit with a psychic impression detailing a young mutant's murder, the team traces the source to a tiny southern town, a little one, barely on the map. Some quick research shows a few other mutant signatures in the area, and a shit ton of missing persons reports all around. Wolverine isn't going to sit around when he can tell that mutant children are in trouble, and immediately decides, they're going to go in guns a-blazing. He makes the distraction while Rogue and Kitty look for the first of the mutants, and after a whole lot of trouble and explaining, she grudgingly accepts their help. Although she lies a bit about her powers, and she's still on the hook to a very seedy guy called Jasper, possibly another mutant, but definitely not a good one. As they track down the next mutant on their list, Sabretooth comes busting out, but is it really Sabretooth?
Yeah, and I gotta admit, dude, I really like kind of the weird horror movie feel that this book has. And I have to say, dude, I've actually been there, and this is a very proper representation of West Virginia. Sometimes in these books, they try to portray these places, and I'm like, that ain't nothing like what it's like. But this really had the feeling of West Virginia in it, and the art style was a little rudimentary. It took me a little while to get into it, but it's a little more cartoonish. But at the end of the book, I really enjoy it, and I like the coloring and everything in it. So, yeah, this is an all-around great book. I like the more mature tone to it. Since it is a Marvel Knights book, they didn't drop the ball there. It's got a really hard-hitting style. They got that weird, I don't know, I think the girl's on some kind of weird mutant ecstasy pills that she stole from the bikers. Pretty sure we're going to get filled in about what all that stuff means in the next subsequent issues. So, yeah, dude, solid reading experience all the way around. Fucking.
Yeah, I liked it, man. It really was like an X-Men horror comic. Very dark and spooky. Lots of atmosphere. Like you said, the visual art is, non-mainstream, to say the least, which I know is a turnoff for some. It's not a very high, realistic kind of style, but there's still a lot you can do with that. Like the dreadful look on Beast's face when he suggests that there being too many mutants in the area could suggest that they were brought there for, bad purposes.
Yeah, the art style, it really lended to how I feel about this book. I kind of hinted this to you when we were talking earlier, how we talk about X-Men Legacy as the Vertigo X-Men book. This one is definitely the Image Comics X-Men comic, from the art to the story tone to everything. I mean, it basically is like, if Image Comics got a hold of X-Men, this is what the first issue would have been like, I guarantee you.
Yeah, man, Image Comics X-Men, I like that. And I really did dig the psychedelics that you brought up, too. I wasn't expecting them, but they kind of made the book for me visually. On kind of the bad, or at least the in-between side, this book is going to poke some holes in your brain continuity-wise. Marvel Knights usually get some room to roam, but this doesn't as much. I mean, it's a very fitting in-universe story, even touching perfectly on the idea of Wolverine and Cyclops' war of ideas, and questioning if this world really does force mutants to choose a side. Then again, Kitty is in it, which doesn't work for the current stuff. Although then again, she's still unkillable, so
I think that some of the other titles, it's going to take them a little while to get caught up. I see it kind of how, when you're reading Cable and the X-Force and the Uncanny Avengers are in there, but the Uncanny Avengers are fighting their own battle in their own book. I kind of see this as like that, you know what I mean? We can't really hold this to the standards that the actual X-Men books are going with because it's kind of loosely connected. So it's just not caught up yet, you know what I mean? It's got to do its own thing, and then maybe it'll hit where the rest of the books are eventually.
Yeah, that's one of those things that you kind of just have to live with in comics. I mean, it's kind of one of those things that I wish editorial would do something to tighten up a little bit more, just for the sake of the fan perspective. But yeah, I get you, man. That's kind of just one of those things that you kind of deal with. And I mean, Marvel Knights is only going to be a mini anyway, as far as I know, so it's not like it's really something you got to put up with. It's just kind of going to be one of those things. So, thumbs up or thumbs down, and buy it or skip it.
I'm going to go thumbs up. Because I just really enjoyed it. I like the art style. I like the tone of the book. I like the horror elements. And I'm going to go ahead and say buy it. You know what I mean? Of course, it's going to be a great trade paperback when all 5 issues come out. But I don't know. It's got a cool-looking cover that you can hang on your wall. And I don't know. It's different X-Men experience from most of the other stuff. I think that some nostalgia fans that aren't really digging what some of the writers are doing with some of the mainstream X-Men books might enjoy this kind of a tale better.
I'm going to go thumbs up. I think everyone is more or less characterized really well. Marvel Knights or not, it feels like a solid exhale so far. But skip it. I've probably recommended buying books of less quality in the past. And I mean, it's a good X-Men issue. I'm not going to say run from it. And I'm probably going to regret this, but I just don't really get to say skip it a lot. And this will probably be a lot more fun to read as a Marvel Knights X-Men trade paperback. Moving on to Savage Wolverine number 11. Well, this is always a short segment, and 3 issues was criminally short for Jock's run on Savage Wolverine. So the kid in the series is basically a little Wolverine, complete with healing factor, claws, and adamantium skeleton. Our bad guys in the series want to make an army of the little buggers, but they can't quite get the formula right. This guy was their one success. He's a true mutant, and the vial is just full of poison to wipe out all the little failures with, basically. Wolverine can't bring himself to do it, but his little sidekick can, and that sounds the alarm that, in theory, sends more bad guys on the way. Little kid couldn't be happier, popping his claws, ready to share more adventures with Wolverine. The issue and the story end with them sitting on a rock waiting for the next ship full of bad guys to show up.
Right. And I mean, sure, it could have been longer. They could have did more with it, but I thought for what it was fun. It kind of reminded me of like if student made like a short film about Wolverine. Of course, there could have been a lot more story. There could have been a lot more depth to it. But hell, maybe this is all Jock had in mind, from the get-go. And as far as it goes, man, even though it's 3 issues and there wasn't much to it, it's probably one of the best Wolverine books since Marvel fucking now popped off with these 3 Wolverine titles, in my opinion. So,
well, it's certainly one of the bravest. So do you think Jock wrote a kind of little metaphorical Wolverine adventure for him and his son?
I think that's definitely, because you've been hinting at that since before this first issue came out. And at first I wasn't seeing it, but then with the whole thing about like how he's going to try to make the best of the time with the kid because he doesn't know exactly how flawed his manufacturing could be or if he's going to live as long with him. So he's going to try to show this kid what's what and be good with them and stuff like that. And then the whole little shared thing where they pop their claws and get ready for the aliens, that really felt like a father and son thing. So definitely think that this was like a little I love you, son from Jock.
And how cool is that? Gotta say,
I would fucking love it, man.
And his son got to make the cool little YouTube video and thing advertising it.
You can't really ask for shit cooler than that, from your dad.
So do you want to go thumbs up or thumbs down and buy it or skip it?
I'm going to say thumbs up. I really love Jock's art. I really like Jock's idea behind this. It was a little short, but I'm going to go ahead and wait for the trade paperback for this to come out. It'll probably be like a little double story one. So, I mean, you'll probably get like 2 quality reads out of the trade for it. So, yeah, just go ahead and get the trade.
I got to go thumbs down. It's just an incomplete, abandoned feeling story. There was some fun along the way. I mean, actually a lot of fun along the way. But I think the issue itself is just ultimately unfulfilling. You don't really get much more than a glimpse at what the story would have been. And like you said, maybe that's all Jock ever really had planned. But I mean, if your enjoyment of the story depends heavily on plot, then you're probably just not going to be happy with it. So speaking for just this issue, I'm going to go skip it unless you don't have any issues from this run. There was never much story, but it's stunning visually. Wow, kind of like the Prometheus movie. But anyway, everyone should have at least one issue from this arc, just to get a glimpse at Jock's sci-fi take on Wolverine. Speaking of Wolverine, next up is Wolverine number 11. At least Savage Wolverine was a little more adventurous, whereas Wolverine number 11 was, at least to me, just plain boring. So in traditional supervillain style, everyone is just toying with Wolverine. There's a good chance the whole supervillain team could rush in and take him out like they've always wanted to, but under the guise of wanting him to suffer, they make it unnecessarily long and drawn out. Maybe they're just afraid to face him until he's completely worn out. Between having no super healing power, and possibly it's hinted, whatever the acupuncture guy hit him with, Wolverine is susceptible to all sorts of voodoo and poisons and gases now. So here we have Wolverine guilt-tripping like crazy. Kitty is stuck in this, the mall cops are stuck in this. But even, hey, he did tell them to get out immediately in the last issue. He's feeling all sorts of new pain, barely able to keep his wits about him. And as he fights a losing battle in the shopping mall that was built over his boyhood home. I mean, Jesus Christ, man, if you're into Wolverine suffering, this is another good one. I mean, where they lay it on pretty thick. So anyway, Wolverine and Kitty are trying to save these mall cops who got caught up in all this. Which, of course, was intentional on the villain's part, putting civilians in there to make this ordeal harder. And a couple of these security guys go down along the way because our masterful villains have prepared for every scenario. Probably the best moment in this issue is when Kitty says, alright, screw it, we're not getting anywhere. Let's just pick one store, put our backs to the wall, barricade ourselves in, and just defend ourselves, prepare to fight. And the one mall cop dude is like, lock myself in with him, point to Wolverine. Are you crazy? We've seen what he can do. He's an animal. And Wolverine just kind of depressingly scowls, man's got a point. I mean, the word animal is always kind of a hot topic, like, buzzword one when you're talking about Logan. And just a couple pages later, Wolverine almost berserks out, but calls himself when he takes a good look at Kitty. But at the end, Wolverine puts Kitty in charge of the remaining mall cops and runs off alone, only to, of course, get blindsided and knocked out, or at least knocked down, by shitty new Silver Samurai.
In the most dramatic last panel we'll ever see in our lives. Dude, honestly, they should just fire the fucking solicit writers, you know what I mean? Honestly, they want you to I think they hire these people so people think that Dan Slott's actually talented, Because, that was by far, I actually liked this issue. I'm surprised you didn't. This is the first issue of this shitty book that I've actually enjoyed, so. But, that last panel was anything but exciting. It was just kind of stupid looking, but I like the cranky old racist grandpa fucking mall guard bitching every step of the way that, oh, you damn mutants always getting us normals caught up in your shit. We're the ones that always get hurt. You guys walk away clean as daisies and all that shit. It was kind of funny, and I don't know. I really liked the way that they broke down the way that Sabretooth picked his 13 Ninja hand and stuff, and about how they explained how the gas worked and the Freddy Krueger thing where they kept revolving, going back to the same place because they were in a mental hallucination of the mall at some point. It was different, you know what I mean? It definitely wasn't great, or even maybe really good, but for a Wolverine comic from the Marvel now, it was quite enjoyable, you know what I mean? I can't hate on this issue for some reason.
I guess one of the things I kind of pointed out when I first brought that solicit up, what do they say? It all comes to a head with one final moment that will change the face of Wolverine forever. First of all, forever, yeah, right, whatever, but, like you said about Uncanny, maybe they're kind of talking about the arc in general. But again, why do they put that in the description for this issue? Because I go into this issue then, after reading that, expecting, some really big climax. So, not in this issue anyway.
I don't get why they would ever try to say that, because Wolverine is one of these characters. He's A-list. He's always overwritten. Everything that ever happens to Wolverine's the most important thing that ever happens to Wolverine. Is just ridiculous, because they're just going to try to up it next fucking story arc.
Well, actually, I'm glad you bring that up, because looking ahead, at least one of two things is going to happen here. At the end of this arc, S.H.I.E.L.D. will run off the Microverse invaders before Wolverine gets his healing factor restored, leaving that in limbo. And/or he'll decide his presence puts the school in too much danger and leave. We've seen it before where Wolverine goes feral and hides in the woods, or when he lost his adamantium and wrote Jubilee that letter and then ran off. He always retreats when shit gets real. And the beginning of this arc makes it pretty evident that this creative team is keeping that personality trait, instead of having him grow and learn to lean on his friends, because he's got to relearn the value of teamwork, 8,000 umpteen times. Come February, they're ending the Wolverine and X-Men title, quoting it as the end of the story for the Jean Grey School. I like to imagine in the absence of Wolverine and Kitty, the rest of the staff will still be running it, especially if it's still a location for a few books, but I'm not really going to miss that title, and the whole concept never really took off anyway. So by February, we'll be rid of that, and also Wolverine Max, which ends at issue 15, but I mean, don't worry, there's plenty more Wolverine as we have to endure a sequel to Origins. But anyway, what's leading up to for this book is another relaunch of the Wolverine title, making for, by my count, volume 6, I think, and it's going to begin with Wolverine trying to regroup after Killable. You know, based on the cover, he's got a new, more armored suit, and is carrying a gun, possibly a sign that his healing factor isn't all the way back, or maybe a decoy, because you know how sometimes Marvel likes to go back and forth between spoiling everything in their solicits, or just completely fucking with you. Or maybe he's learning his lesson that getting hurt sucks, and he should try and be a little more tactical. But I mean, I guess anyway, he's concocting a revenge scheme or something in this future series that involves him running around with a gang of D-list supervillains. Now, like I said, retreating after a traumatic event is pretty much in character for Logan, and if you look to his early past, he was a gun for hire before, so doing some minor bad guy stuff isn't a stretch at all for him, but it's all very, one step forward, 2 steps back kind of stuff. I'd be cutting them a lot more slack on this retreat if it was also a little more literal. I mean, read any page of comic book solicits for Marvel, and you'll see the name Wolverine in print roughly, 20, 30 times. If Wolverine is going to go off the grid and, run with the wolves, so to speak, that number should be cut down to like 5. Yeah, I know comic book stories in different books don't always line up all the time. Time-wise, we just talked about this with Marvel Knights, X-Men. I mean, I don't care. I would just love for a month or two just to take him out, take him out of all the Avengers stuff, take him out of all the other X titles, take him out of anything else he might appear in, and let's just see him in 1 or 2 of his own books. It really would feel to the fans, from our perspective, like he was in hiding. You really would feel it,
I guess.
For now, thumbs up or thumbs down, and buy it or skip it.
I'm going to go ahead and actually just give this issue a thumbs up because, I don't know, I found it oddly enjoyable for some reason. I like the descriptions of things and stuff. I thought that they took this particular issue a little further than the rest of this retarded arc's been and actually trying to explain where it's going with itself. But I'm actually going to go ahead and say just skip it, get the trade if you're so inclined to read this thing.
Let's see, I'm actually going to go thumbs down. I mean, I think last issue had a lot more momentum and also surprised me. And it looks even better in hindsight, seeing some of the things that they set up here. But this was an issue of Wolverine that I could really live without. So also skip it. I mean, unless you've never read a Wolverine comic in your whole life, then yeah, through Killable you'll get a good idea of who he is. But I think longtime readers are going to want more. So, Deadpool 19. Deadpool's in a place very similar to where Wolverine was a while ago. Not knowing a lot about his past, and not knowing if he can trust even what he thinks he knows, but whenever he learns something new, it usually means there's someone new he wants to kill. And in this case, Wolverine and Captain America need to take down the same facility where his bad guy is, for intersecting reasons, so they're along for the ride. They're in North Korea, and this is how they set up the plan. Captain America will hold off the North Korean army long enough for Deadpool to stop the mastermind, and for Wolverine to destroy the facility. He's got to rig the bombs to go off so they can exit with a cool guys don't look at explosions scene. The most interesting things here to me, number 1, Deadpool uses cunning more than anything else to get into the panic room and go for the bad guy. Number 2, Captain America holds the whole North Korea army off just based on reputation alone. They're so nervous about engaging him and not knowing if he has, say, the Hulk with him, they make every excuse to continue it just as a standoff. It's also kind of funny because it came about, from the writers not having enough pages in the comic to do the battle the way they imagined. So they went with this, and it was kind of way cooler. Plus, it saves...
really?
Oh, honestly, yeah, man.
Honestly, because that was hilarious, dude. Because maybe he got the Robot Man or the Green Giant with him. Yeah, we don't want to fight. I really like the way that they're playing with the hot button issues of what we're actually kind of going through with North Korea right now. So that was kind of cool. This issue to kind of sidestep the normal silliness of Deadpool and kind of put something like that. And like you pointed out, dude, he uses cunning. This is actually the most mature and thoughtful I've ever read Wade ever. You know what I mean? It was kind of a really interesting issue to see him step back and actually think for once,
Yeah, you see him lay down, it almost kind of looks like, he's putting down his weapons and he's trying to make this impactful speech or maybe almost be sorrowful or something. But he's not talking to the bad guy, he's talking to the person locked in with the bad guy, who also just wants it to end, and that's his plan, to get her to let him into the room. Plus, as he's kind of like laying himself down, what he's doing is just putting himself into a lunging position so he can sneak through the door the second it opens.
And I gotta say, for all the kind of X-Mini, A+X kind of crossovers that they've done with Cap, this is about the best that anybody's written him. They've actually wrote him as like the sentinel, the man of truth that he's supposed to be. And I really like that through this, he's actually kind of started to respect Wade, and Wade's kind of on Cap's good side, you know what I mean? I never thought that would happen, and it was almost really neat in this issue. Cap and Deadpool are going to be friends, man. That's pretty cool.
So why doesn't he write Cap this well when he does the A+X book? Because he's also...
the same guy?
Yeah, it's the same guy. There's two guys writing Deadpool. There's Brian Posen, like the stand-up comedian guy who... I actually remember from the Sarah Silverman show as the one gay guy who smoked pot. But there's him, and there's also... Gary Duggan is the other writer on it, and Gary Duggan is the one who's writing the Cyclops and Captain America tale in A+X.
Wow, yeah, dude, that's odd. How could you nail him so good in one book and write him so retarded in another? That's crazy.
Yeah, man, I don't get it. Yeah, I wish you could write him in that book more like he does in this book. Yeah, but I do still like the way that they did this, where it saves all the violence for the end and makes it more impactful when Deadpool finally gets his revenge. And the number 3 on my point there, I mean, they've dealt with this in a few places lately. Cap doesn't want to go down with them into the facility because he doesn't want to have to lie about what he saw down there. I've seen this especially in Uncanny. They question making Wolverine an Avenger because of his history. Cyclops has called Cap out on this numerous times, how he can work with Wolverine, and he's going to do it plenty more. Cap has to sure know damn well that Deadpool is going down there for some murderous revenge. But he just turns a blind eye to it. I think ever since the movie came out, too, I've heard a lot more chatter about, isn't Captain America a soldier? Don't soldiers in wars have to kill? Wasn't he surrounded by soldiers on his side, killing people en masse?
Well, it's called plausible deniability, and, yeah, he's a soldier, and honestly, Cap's... I've never known him. He's not a murderer, but I've never known him to not kill somebody when they needed it in the comics. He doesn't go down there because I think, one, he would be embarrassed that it was all based off of research that the Americans kind of started, all kind of based off of what he's made of, Everything that those horrible people were doing down there to mutants and other people is all trying to replicate him. So I think that there's that going on with Cap. And plus, like you said, he knows that Deadpool's going to go down there and break a motherfucker's neck. That doesn't mean he has to go down there and help him or watch him, you know what I mean? And not to mention, it was really cool. He just stood there at the gate and scared the shit out of the entire North fucking Korean army. I mean, it was just a few panels long, but man, was it just really made the book. If they actually would have went to war with the Korean army, I don't think it would have been as cool of an issue as them just fucking being terrified of him standing there.
Yeah, but it's a really epic shot, Captain America standing there with his shield, and, and someone else pointed this out, but it's like, Captain America's standing on this epic shot, and his shield is even behind his back. He's not even holding it up in front of him, in a battle pose, he's just standing there. And the other thing you bring up that they did mention in that interview was, how crazy it is, how cool a moment can come from just, the restrictions of what you're doing. In the interview, he compared it almost kind of to that scene in the Indiana Jones movie where Indiana Jones, or not Indiana Jones, but Harrison Ford, had diarrhea or something that day, so he didn't want to do the fight scene. So after the guy does all the crazy sword shit, Indiana Jones just shoots him. One quote they used, sometimes adversity can be art's best friend. They had intended to have Indiana Jones fight the guy, but because Harrison Ford didn't want to do his stunts that day, they got what ended up being one of the most iconic scenes in Indiana Jones history. And then, same thing here, it's they intended to draw a big battle with Captain America, but then they're like, fuck, we don't have enough pages to have Captain America fight the North Korean army. So, let's do it this way instead. And it becomes one of the coolest things about the book.
That, and it's set up for one of the best jokes, too, because, we had the somber, very just, Wade at his lowest that I've ever seen him. And then at the very end of the issue, he trumps off to the entire North Vietnamese army and starts threatening them and stuff, because Cap had him at a standstill. So he went all fucking, Wade as you know him, and was lecturing him and talking shit about fucking Kim Jong-il's kid and stuff like that. And then fucking Wolverine had to grab him. Come on, Wade, you're pushing your limit and stuff. It was a really funny little scene. So if they were fighting, we wouldn't have had that joke scene either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, even in a much, much darker Deadpool book, you've got to have your humor somewhere. And it does come from also, a place of dark humor, which makes it work. I mean, like the Koreans are joking about, don't joke about wanting the good guys to beat us. I don't want to get executed today, or something like that.
Yeah, straight up. For real, yeah.
Do we want to go thumbs up or thumbs down and buy it or skip it?
I'm going to go thumbs up. I loved it, man. I've liked the series since it's relaunched, since Marvel Now. I really liked the 2 books before this, but I'm going to go ahead and say skip this issue. Awesome book. Get the trade. You won't regret it.
I'm going to go thumbs up. It might not be the Deadpool comic you expect, but it's the one you deserve. And buy it. Whether you think you know everything about Deadpool, or you don't know anything about him, whether you expect him to be funny, or hate how he's kind of typecast that way, there's a lot more than meets the eye in just this single issue. Okay, so X-Men Gold #1. I mean, what's better than a classic Sentinel fight? And how do you beat a fastball special? How about with a flaming fastball special? Is it just me, or is every other X comic out there trying to remind us how close of a relationship Wolverine and Kitty have now that they're fighting an all-new X-Men? I mean, they're still in Killable together and in Marvel Knights, and now in here. My theory on this is a conspiracy.
Yeah, I think that the little part with Kitty and Wolverine at the end of like that story that you're referring to was a little kick in the balls for that she left him. I really don't bear any credence to your she's a double agent thing, man. I do not. I think that the way she left and everything, I think it's driving really well, and I think she really wants to be part of the Xavier School. That's just how I see things.
So by a kick in the balls, do you mean like it just hurts you in the feels, or do you mean like it's kind of insulting to show them together?
Well, no, yeah, it was just like a kick in the balls to like Wolverine fans, that are like, "Ooh, she left him for Scott Summers," because they would be together forever. He'd always have my back and I'd have his. That iconic line. You know what I mean? And like, what else we have this week? She left his ass because he's a fucking little troll that fucking doesn't know the value of friendship.
Yeah, apparently based on his recent actions, it kind of seems like he really doesn't. I also find it kind of funny that Stan Lee writes his story about everyone desperately trying to date Jean, but like in a fun, silly way, compared to the more jealous, angry, like rapey subtext over in All New.
Which really makes me think that like Goldballs is probably going to get to hook up with Jean, because
oh god,
because like honestly, like Scott and Beast are just they're going full retard with it. You know what I mean? Like, I think Tempest has more of a chance with her now than fucking say it's either Scott or Beast. I think that they used a lot of nostalgic, old-school stuff to hint at things that are going to be happening in the future. All in all, man, this book was just a throwback to nostalgia, and, like, it's really just to kiss up to all the nostalgia fans that don't really like the new books and that cry about that all the old guys aren't there anymore, which, I mean, I'm fine with. It's an anniversary anthology book. It was cool. I really liked the little story about Sunfire and Banshee in Memphis going to Graceland and shit like that. That was really funny. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it was just trying to, show how there was always these rivalries that actually never existed until recently in the past.
Yeah, man. Speaking of your your nostalgia thing, I did love all the adjectives in the credit box for the creative team on that one previous mentioned story. That brought back some good memories. And speaking of Sunfire and Banshee in another story, that's a very convenient pairing. Anyway, for my money, the best stories are the ones where Wolverine daydreams about killing all the X-Men. Like, if they turned on him, like he's doing his own version of the Xavier protocols, and then they get stumped by Storm. And then when they revisit Xavier wiping Magneto's mind during Fatal Attractions, how they have Professor X showing Magneto, like, a false paradise in his mind as he's more or less killing him. Kind of just like the missed hug in All New X-Men. That was really kind of beautifully tragic.
I suppose, yeah.
And Fabian Nicieza, who wrote, that particular little piece of the anthology, also wrote, I think, a lot of the majority of, a good part of, he wrote a lot of Fatal Attractions. So, for him, that was a nice chance for him to put something on top of it. But do you want to go thumbs up or thumbs down and buy it or skip it?
I'm going to go thumbs down. I don't know. It wasn't really anything that I'm too interested in right now. It's a throwback to a lot of the shit that I'm actually trying to forget about from X-Men Past. But I'm going to say buy it just because it's got a great cover. It's a nice little thing that every X-Men fan should have, whether you're really enticed or amazed by it. It's a fucking anniversary book, man. Get it.
I have to go thumbs up because I don't have enough to give a thumbs down for. I had a lot of fun with it. There was some sadness and some emotion. It was cool to kind of hop through some X-Men history. But I'd probably go skip it. There's not a lot of real, fulfilling storytelling here. And I honestly did kind of find myself just kind of skimming through some parts, if I'm honest.
Right.
Okay, so on to our previews. Let's start off with Cable and X-Force number 16. So last time we talked about Cable and X-Force, I announced it as my new favorite comic. And within 2 weeks, it was canceled. Hey guys, I really love Amazing X-Men. It's just the comic I wanted.
Oh man, it's oh, I don't think it'll work, but good try, man. That's hilarious. Cable and the X-Force going away, man. It's sad, and I really hope they find good places for the characters. You know what I mean? Because I really liked the way that it was going. I really liked the characters that were in it. I liked the whole thing with Domino and Colossus. I really liked that their relationship's budding. I really hope that maybe they go to the Xavier School after this, because it doesn't look like they're going to be in Cy Spurrier's X-Force title.
Yeah, I guess canceled is technically the wrong word, because it's kind of just being combined with the other book. But I really liked this team dynamic. And I hope we get a lot of it as we pick up from the cliffhangers of Colossus and Domino versus the Sentinel, and Hope versus a bomb. I mean, seriously though, they just got a fresh start on the story, but instead it's ending.
Canceled was the right term for it, because otherwise they wouldn't have just restarted and then just oh wait, it's over, you know what I mean? That's kind of the way that they run things, and it's really kind of pissing me off with Big Two doing this all the time, because, I mean, honestly, dude, books have lulls, man. You gotta give something like this a little time to take off. You can't expect it in a year to become a top seller and shit like that. Just to up and cancel these books because, right after the takeoff, they're not selling through the roof. I mean, honestly, you should count the trade sales and all that stuff, too, because most of these books, especially this one, is written for trade paperbacks. A lot of people like me are tired of buying issue to issue. You guys want fucking $5 a piece for the damn things. So yeah, we're gonna wait for the $12 collection of the 5 issues to come out. I'm sorry, that's just the way it goes. The economy's shit, and you're not making the issues any cheaper. So a lot of us wait for the trade. So I mean, you can't cancel the book because of that. It's really pissing me off.
And it almost seems like they get that too. I mean, so many comics nowadays feel like they're written for the trade.
Especially this one. So, I mean, a lot of the other books, if you look at All New X-Men and you look at Uncanny and stuff, there is kind of an overarching story to them, but they're standalone issues for the most part. The story is written and resolved within the issue until Battle of the Atom. Basically, every issue of those books, were standalones for the most part, so this one was not like that. The Uncanny X-Force, which is also shit-canned, was not like that, but honestly, I think that Humphreys was writing Uncanny X-Force a little too wild for people. But this one, I mean, it was almost a Cable and the X-Force. It was almost a return to the 90s, but the 90s done right, in my opinion. You know what I mean? It had them characters, it had the muscles, it had the fucking robot arms and stuff, but it was actually written and readable. You know what I mean? It wasn't just a big buff guys, acting macho and stuff. They had flaws and vulnerabilities, and they were getting their asses kicked all the time and stuff. And it's just pitiful that they wouldn't give these books a little more of a chance. You know what I mean? They just, oh yeah, we gave it a few issues. Nobody, it didn't really take off the way we wanted to, so it's over.
Yeah, man, they really were kind of taking that idea and fixing it, but now they're blowing it. Alright, so we've also got Longshot Saves Marvel Universe number 2 of 4. Doctor Strange shows up, which is, I think, all we really have to highlight for you, because other than that, basically expect more of what you saw in issue 1.
Yeah, it's gonna be silly. We're probably gonna have Doctor Strange be more like Dr. Orpheus from the Venture Brothers, which will probably be fun, so bring it on.
Alright, and then also Wolverine Max number 13. Which I mean, it has a pretty trippy cover, but it's not even one of Jock's cool, grungy-looking ones. So I'm not sure what else there is to look forward to here.
Oh, yeah, Wolverine's not going to be able to pop his claws. There's going to be some cheesy fuck scenes. Let's see, he's going to probably hang out with some trailer trash and get beat up a couple times. Way to go. It's Extreme Logan. What do you expect?
We also have X-Men Legacy number 20. Legion says about dying, all that matters is how hard you fight when death comes to take you. So how hard will this book have to fight on its way out? Well, pretty hard if Legion's taking on a Phoenix weapon. The February solicits say, and I quote, this is it, the end, anything can happen. And also in January they say, one thing's for sure, as this groundbreaking series races to its conclusion, anything is possible. Like you've suggested, Johnny, it could easily just be restarting in another month, but, written and drawn by who? And who will it be about? Will it be about Legion?
He's got so many personalities and he's got so many powers depending on what he taps into that I think if there's anybody that could beat a fucking Phoenix weapon, it'll be that guy. But going off of what's going to be happening with the X-Men Legacy, anything's possible, but I am definitely sure that the title X-Men Legacy won't lay dormant for too long. It's been a seminal series since Mike Carey took it over after Messiah Complex and had the whole thing where Professor X's brain gets put back together and him and Gambit go on the thing, and then they really went soul-searching with Rogue. So I really think that, this different take on it with Legion really was a weird kind of sidetrack, but I'm not sure, I think that it'll reset and it'll probably go to, I don't know, whoever's going to be probably having the most problems in the universe at the time, It'll be about them trying to get their shit together, because that's kind of what X-Men Legacy's always been about, for as long as I've read it.
Well, that's a pretty interesting take, and I'm definitely curious to see how this all goes down. It might also be worth mentioning that, in theory, when we get to the last issue of this series, it will technically be, if you just take all the numbers as they would have been, it will technically also be, or have been, the 300th issue.
Wow, really? That's cool, then. It's sad that it's wrapping up, but, I'm surprised that the book ran this long. We got 3 great trade paperbacks out of this. I never thought that a weird Vertigo-style book about Legion would last this long. Books that are creative and really push the boundaries and don't do your normal X-Men things, or at least what's going on with the normal X-Men books at this time, don't usually go over too well or this long. So I'm just happy that we got it as long as we did, and I think that it's going to wrap up nicely. I think Spurrier had enough time to know that it was coming, that he's going to put a nice bow on it.
And I never thought that I would like it so much, which is all the more reason to get me into it and then just yank it away. So, anyway, A+X number 14. As we mentioned earlier, one of the writers on Deadpool, Gary Dugan, is doing the Psyche and Cap story. I wish his Cap was a little more like the Cap in Deadpool, but for the most part, it's still a really complicated interaction between Cap and Psyche, and one that I'm looking forward to more of. And I think it does also bear mentioning that it's like, Cyclops knocks Captain America for working with murderers, like, Wolverine, or say maybe Deadpool. But who's asking for forgiveness? What murderer is Captain America working with now? Cyclops?
Well, the thing is, man, and I will sit screaming this until the day that I die. Dude, Cyclops was possessed by the Phoenix Force, which was inflicted on him by Tony Stark, you know what I mean? It's not like he was in his right mind. Not to mention, dude, in the same story arc where, ooh, dude, Cyclops murdered Professor X, how come nobody gives a shit? I hated Dakin, but Wolverine drowned his own son in a fucking mud puddle. You know what I mean? How come, Sykes this murder because Professor X was a good guy, you fucking kill somebody, it's murder. Whether they're good, bad, whatever, you know what I mean? It's killing. It's against the law. End of story.
And, by the way, they forgave Scarlet Witch for the same thing, for being more or less, going through the same situation, right? Like, Scarlet Witch was, she was possessed, it wasn't her, but, she murdered people, but it wasn't her, and they forgave her, right?
Yeah, she caused the mutant holocaust, you know what I mean? The decimation, all that shit. That Cyclops killed one dude.
Yeah, didn't Scarlet Witch kill, Vision and someone else, possibly?
Yeah,
that whole thing? It's been a while since I read it, but...
Yeah, House of M was shit. The only good thing about House of M is what came after it. With the decimation, we got great books like X-Factor and X-Force and Messiah Complex out of it. But House of M itself was just a useless book. It was AVX, the first version.
Yeah, man, well said. I feel the same way about both those events. Both those events I thought they represented some of the worst things about comic books and what comics can do, but the fallout from both of them was pretty awesome.
Right, yeah, honestly, I hated A+X, but I love Marvel now. I really love the whole Xavier, Jean Grey school thing that they got going on. They actually brought the Schism to life because they've been actually trying to get the Schism off the ground for a while now. It's really taken on, and of course it took one of the shittiest books ever to make it happen, but dude, it happened, and I'm really happy about it now. So. Yeah,
man. And the other story in A+X number 14 is Doc Ock, Spuddy, and Magneto, which sounds pretty cool, right?
It's going to be sexy.
Yeah.
Wait, no, my bad. You said Magneto and Spidey? Never mind. Wait, is what's his name doing it? Howard Chalkian, Master of Sexy.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm definitely not that dude, man.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I think the Magneto and Spidey thing actually sounds better than the Cap and Cyclops thing right now. But yeah, honestly, I would have liked the Cap and Cyclops thing if it was taken with even a little minuscule amount of the maturity that they tackled with the Deadpool series we just covered, man. And honestly, it's the silliest, most retarded thing I ever read, and they're actually trying to tackle one of the most impactful beasts that's going on in Marvel.
Yeah, man, I mean, that's the thing with this book. It's like I look at it and I'm like, ooh, Doc Ock, Spidey, and Magneto. Like, that sounds cool. Like, they're two villainous characters who are kind of doing good now. Like, that should be really neat. But this book always sounds cooler than it actually is. I mean, they've made a pretty good use of Doc Ock's Spidey so far. I mean, at least generally whoever writes him in this series writes him better than in his own series. But yeah, it just never comes out as cool as it should, and I'll probably never forgive them for that White Queen Black Widow fiasco.
Yeah, I think there's only one issue of A+X I liked, and it was when Iron Fist and the Duke were taking out these drug dealers. Really fucking funny issue. I think it was number 7. But aside from that, it's basically a very useless title.
We are also going to get X-Men number 7.
Yes!
I know, right? I think a lot like All New X-Men was this week. X-Men number 7 is going to be all about all those little character interactions between all the people who share this living space, which will also be important, especially after Battle of the Atom. And with Karima and M, of course, you know, we're introducing a new Lady Deathstrike as the villain. We're going to get a nice 6-issue arc starting right here, and this could really be a top book every week it's out.
For real. Well, I mean, it's written by the amazing Brian Wood, and I'm not going to jump on and be a fanboy with him right now. But the thing is I think you're right. I think All New X-Men this week was for the Xavier School. I think that this book is going to be that for the Jean Grey School, and it's really going to show how hard Kitty's leaving has hit people like Rachel, you know, her real friends there, Storm and Rachel, you know what I mean? And I think that, yeah, M's going to be joining. There's probably going to be some, like, bitchy clashes at first with her there, just saying. But I don't know, yeah, it should be a very interesting, very exotic and erotic book, especially with all the females and their cattiness, you know? It's going to really take off in the second arc after Battle of the Atom. So, like, I expect nothing but good things from this title.
Yeah, man, I think the self-titled X-Men is going to be one of my favorites for a little bit here. We're also going to get Uncanny X-Men number 14. Now, it's been a while since I thought about this, and we are kind of getting back into routine after Battle of the Atom. But remember, Scott's whole thing was kind of militarizing the X-Men. You know, every member is a soldier, even the kids. And what we're going to see in this issue is how Cyclops really runs his school like a boot camp. And why we need the Jean Grey School or some other alternative to provide a balance.
I guess. Bunch of hippies singing and hugging trees and shit. But yeah, and I also think that they're going to be getting back to what they were hinting at before Battle of the Atom with that dude that sent that crazy ass Spectre Sentinel after him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that whole thing should definitely not be forgotten. I also gotta say, man, I'm really gonna love this Benjamin Deeds kid, man. Anyone willing to give Cyclops that amount of shit is A+ in my book.
That's the thing, man. That's why I really can't get behind most of the kids at the Jean Grey School. They're just all people that carried over from Grant Morrison's All New X-Men and stuff. Bendis went out of his way to actually create all these really awesome new characters like Benjamin and Goldballs and Tempest and Triage, you know? And now with the past X-Men there, dude, it's going to be a wild, wild read, you know what I mean? Like, I really just like the Xavier School so much right now. It's where I'd, like, if I was a mutant, that's where I'd want to go to school at.
Are you for serious, man? If you go to school at the Xavier School, fucking Cyclops treats you like he's a fucking boot camp guy and you're a plebe, and he makes you crawl up muddy mountains and kicks you back down the hill and punches you in the face and says, "Go ahead, hit me back. Come on, hit me."
And I'd hit him. I mean, it'd be better than hanging out with hippie-ass Wolverine trying to be the dad from fucking Family Ties.
Well, I mean, I was debating if I wanted to save this for when we actually review the book, because, I mean, you know, we saw so many of the preview pages. I mean, how do you feel about this shit, man? I mean, Cyclops is, you know, still, once again, kind of a dick.
He always is gonna be, dude. That's his MO. He's just kind of like a likable one now that he's all pissed and he wants to fuck shit up. But I never thought that, like, now he's just like some kind of cool guy that, like, smokes weed and fucking drives a fast car or something. No, dude, he's just like, he's still like, you know, that I gotta be the best. But, like, at least he's really super motivated now. And he's like, he wants to be the best so he can fucking kick some ass, not so he could just, like, so daddy will like me best like he used to be. So, and yeah, he's always gonna be a little cock. I mean, it's Scott Summers, that ain't gonna change, You can make him as evil or as crazy as you want. He's still gonna be a cocky little shit.
Well, they certainly have kept him in character that way.
Right. Well, I mean, like, if they did, that would have taken it too far, and even I would be crying like a nostalgia fan about that, There's certain things that you can do with the characters. You can take Cyclops, push him over the edge, and make him villain-esque, but if they tried to do too much and make him, like, where he doesn't care, like he's just like some go-lucky guy, it'll be retarded, He's never going to be that way. It's not in his mentality, It's not in his MO. He's a little, I'm best kind of little pricky guy, and whether he's evil or not, that's how he's going to be.
Okay, so shall we spike the punch?
Oh yeah!
Yeah, man, spike it up, bro.
So Spiking the Punch is a segment where Johnny and I each recommend one non-X-Men related comic. Johnny Alpha, do you want to lead us off?
I am going to be spiking the punch with this title for a second time. I used this last month, but I just have to bring it back up again because this issue is just so much better. I love the way that the story is just evolving, and it's Coffin Hill issue 2 from Vertigo Comics, man. And I just gotta say, dude, like, wasn't this just such a great step up from the last issue? Eve Coffin is such a little badass, but she has magic powers. She comes from a long line of witches and stuff, and basically she's still going to be using these, and she's still going to be kind of this noir PI kind of outside of the law, but working with the cop because one of her old high school friends, the dude with the tats that she thought was hot but was dating her friend, is the Mayberry cop where she lives and stuff, and she goes to help him look for the missing kids in the woods and stuff, and like he's being a douche, doing his own cop thing, so she goes ahead and steals his cop police cruiser and goes and checks out another crime scene, finds out what's going on with the girl, and missing girl is a witch herself. So then they go into the woods, and you get a little more in depth of what happened in the woods that night, what happened to her friends, and why she ran away and became a cop in Boston, which is all very interesting. I just love this character. I love Eve Coffin. She's so badass. Like, if I was going to get busted and handcuffed by a cop, I wish it would be her. And, yeah, put that in print.
Sexy time. Yeah, man, this is pretty unprecedented to use the same book twice in a Spike the Punch segment. I mean, it's technically not against the rules because we recommend them by issue. I mean, you could technically recommend every issue of Coffin Hill. And I gotta say, man, that, I'm not gonna argue with it at all. So there's still this back and forth between past and present, but it's calmed down a bit in this issue and feels a bit more linear. It's very satisfying to see some of the mysterious elements from the first issue come into focus. We go back to that night where she crashed the party. We see how important the defiance of her mother is to her. We're getting background on why she went into the woods in the first place. We see that for a virgin, she's pretty promiscuous, willing to do whatever the other girl won't as she's unbuckling his belt. If this were an X-Men comic, that would certainly be a candidate for sexiest moment material right there.
Right.
I really like how even though Eve is back in Coffin Hill, like you said, she's still kind of in cop mode throughout a lot of it. I was worried that I'd missed that element, but she kind of forces her way into her old friend's investigation, even though he really wants no part of her. And that's what I love about her the most. I love her attitude. She carries herself with just, a lot of momentum. She's really fun to follow no matter where she's going. And I think I pretty much said the exact same thing last time we talked about this, but when you sell me on the character, you can put them in almost any situation, and then I'm right there with them,
Yeah, she's got great momentum, and I agree with what you're saying. She is like a black magic kind of metal goth version of Painkiller Jane in many ways, in my opinion. She's got that entire, like, attitude thing, like, dude, I just took your car because you were being an idiot and you were slowing me down, so I fucking went and figured some shit out. And yeah, dude, like, she's awesome. I wish that there were actually girls like her in real life.
Yeah, man, if this book keeps this shit up, then you're gonna see me, looking up Caitlin Kitteridge at the library and, trying to find Kitteridge and looking up some more of her work, because this is pretty tits, man.
For real. And like we were saying, she's a huge X-Men fan. I hope, like many other people that came and went through Vertigo and got their careers taken off, just like, say, Brian Wood, Mike Carey, maybe one day we will be reading her doing an excellent X-Men comic that we could be giving thumbs up and thumbs down to. which I think probably going to be thumbs up if she's still writing this good and doesn't follow Jason Aaron, who also used to be a Vertigo writer, so.
I would love it.
If Brian Wood leaves the X-Men title and they want to keep this all-girl cast, I think she'd be a great writer to step in and take it over.
Now, wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, they get her and the chick that does Pretty Deadly, that creative team, mix them all up, man, you're going to set the world on fire, man. Going to piss a lot of dudes off, but I think it's going to be a hell of a read.
I think we've got us a pitch right here.
Right?
Okay, so for me this week, I've got X, number 7. Dark Horse has had a decent amount of success in bringing back characters from their old Comics Greatest World imprint with both Ghost and X. I'm recommending issue number 7 of X because of the perfect storm of competing forces it brings together. X is our protagonist vigilante, but the story is told mainly from the point of view of a police officer named Romy Doso, and his ragtag team of cops tasked with hunting the vigilante down. Now I love stories with crooked cops, and this one has a doozy. Lieutenant Setter is in charge of the narcotics division in this city. Instead of shaking down dealers, running a protection racket on them, stealing from them to sell to others or something like that, he is the dealers, as his alter ego is a huge South American drug lord. He should be happily holding all the cards, but of course the vigilante X is the thorn in his side. X is a brutal vigilante who does a lot of killing. Like, the old 3 strikes you're out thing? With him, the first strike is the warning, and then the second strike is you're out. And since a lot of his targets are dirty cops, it's easy to paint him as a cop killer and a murderer. So Setter handpicks, the only 4 cops in town who aren't on the take to be his new X task force. Even though they seem woefully underqualified and random, he knows they have the best chance because, in theory, X won't be willing to kill them. They're good cops, but if they happen to die, then oh well, that's also all the easier for him. So you've got your crooked cops, your clean cops, and your brutal vigilante, all set against each other in these conflicting ways in this very crisp, easy-to-read comic.
Right? Yeah, and I gotta say, it was really fun. It was very well written. I liked kind of the different creeds that the cops have, like the ex-prize fighter actually tried to box X, and the chick cop, I really like that they're actually kind of starting to understand X more than their boss, and they're kind of uncovering that their boss is a shady little crooked fuck. So that's pretty cool. And I gotta say, this book is really awesome for many reasons, but one of the most is it really was the first time I've read anything by the writer Dwayne Scisorinsky that wasn't utter garbage. His work at Marvel was unprecedentedly some of the worst stuff I ever read. I actually called him the title killer because any book that I was reading, Marvel put out, what's it called, The Immortal Iron Fist and such, as soon as they gave the title over to him, it was canceled within the first 4 issues of his art. I didn't know that the man had any talent whatsoever, so when they relaunched X, which I used to read in the 90s, I saw his name on it, and I was a little disheartened, but then when I read it, I was kind of really satisfied. But this issue, it really is the cream of the cake, and this book is just a lot of Frank Miller fan service, but it's done with a lot of respect, and it's done with a bit of good brutality, and I don't know, the character interactions are very well, and I'm glad to see somebody that I thought was talentless actually has talent. It's always fun, to see that you painted somebody wrong.
If he's the title killer, could we get him to do a guest star thing on Amazing X-Men?
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Yeah, dude, Jason Aaron gets laryngitis or something and can't write for a while, and
well, it makes no sense, but
yeah, he breaks both of his hands, I don't know. Something happens where Jason Aaron can't write. Dwayne Scisorinsky's the only fill-in. And yeah, dude, because honestly, why are they going to cancel? I mean, we're getting way off topic, but why are they going to cancel all Wolverine and the Archies and leave Amazing X-Men going? I'd rather have Wolverine and the Archies than that shit, bro. But whatever. Let's get back to X.
Yeah, they're the same book anyway. But sticking on this author, I don't know how much Valiant you're reading since Valiant came back, but he also writes Bloodshot, which I thought was pretty decent.
The only other thing that I've read of his recently is his Judge Dredd books, which are utter garbage. There are so many great Judge Dredd books that come from England every week that they should just bind up and sell to Americans instead of having some crap guy try to do Judge Dredd for Americans and release it at IDW. But yeah, I don't want to rain shit on Dwayne Scisorinsky when I was actually complimenting the poor bastard.
Yeah, so maybe that won't make the edit, but I've just got to add that, especially if you've never read X, This issue makes for a great jumping on point. I don't look to spike the punch specifically just with jumping on points, but the issue isn't told in first person, so to be introduced to the hero from an outside point of view is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, if they made a movie about X in 80s or 90s, this is kind of how the story would have gone. You know, you would have followed this character that was like the one good cop. And so, I mean, basically it's like a throwback to like classic kind of B action films with, I don't know, some really good writing behind it and some awesome art. So,
okay, time for Sex with a Capital X, our sexiest moment of the week.
Oh my.
Johnny Alpha, do you want to lead us off in our celebration of fine-looking X-Men?
yes, my sexiest moment, it might be a weird one, but I really liked when young Jean had it out with the cuckoos in her new bedroom. I thought that was really funny, and I like how indignant Celeste got, so that was kind of sexy.
Oh yeah, very, very just like bitchy, feminine kind of interaction. Yeah, I agree. I think there's every reason to really enjoy that scene. You know, just a bunch of girls having it out. Gotta like that. For me, I've always wanted to use this, and I guess it's my last chance, which is why I'm doing it. But Jean's old school outfit in All New X-Men 18. And yeah, I get it, you know, Jean is supposed to be young. I'm just talking about the outfit here. I always thought it was really cute how they made it like a hip-hugging gym short kind of thing. It's old and new at the same time, but what I love the most is how they gave it like a girl next door kind of vibe that way, you know, which is a concept we can all relate to.
Especially with Jean Grey, because that's basically how they write her, so... She's like the hot little redhead next door that anybody can fall in love with and everybody does type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So once again, it's just kind of like, it's just girly shit done well. Okay, so don't forget that www.facebook.com/allaboutxmencomics podcast is our new preferred home on the web. Whether you prefer to stream or download the show, the link for it will be there. So, see you next week.